Thank you for joining us for another edition of No Stoplights. Before we go to the content and matter at hand, I want to thank our sponsors, Micky Finn's, Marlboro MPD Electric Co-op, Schofield's, Carolina Bank, and Pepsi of Florence. I've said several times this week, and it's my opinion, politics runs downstream of culture. So if our culture has developed and evolved and ended up in a place where anything goes and everything's going to be okay. I mean, in essence, I don't want any trouble, right? I mean, Joe Sixpack doesn't want any trouble. I don't want to make hard decisions, man. I mean, why? Because they're hard. I want to be on easy street. Why? Because it's easy. So our culture has decided that it's going to kind of, it's going to rally around anything goes. Well, what is anything goes? Well, anything goes means that a person can wake up one day and declare themselves a woman, wake up the next day and declare themselves a man. So instead of confronting that warped and perverted ideology, and it is an ideology, I mean, it's a part of our culture. Ideologies don't just have to be political. I mean, they're cultural ideologies. They're societal ideologies. They're conflicting ideologies, contrasting ideologies. Very often we say ideologies kind of a political word. Well, I mean, in the sense of hosting a radio show, it is. Damn, Fast Twitch is working for it.
Going to say.
I'm fast twitching.
Take a deep breath.
I mean, you see me. I'm jumping around in this chair. And
I see it.
Anyway, give me some weights to lift. I mean, that's what some push-ups while Rev takes over the broadcasting privilege. No, but if culture has, if politics runs downstream of culture, and culture frames the political debate eventually. In other words, we don't wake up tomorrow and the country decides that, okay, culturally, here's where we stand on transgenderism. I mean, let's use that as an example, because I think that's a concoction from hell. But it's being normalized in America. Bud Light, one of the international iconic brands, just decided not to use Kid Rock, not to use Travis Tritt, not to use Chase Elliott, not to use Dale Earnhardt Jr., but instead a social media influencer who is a grown man dresses as a little girl. I mean, they've decided. So society and culture have decided pretty much that anything goes, right? Take the debt. What is a lot of the narrative in our culture today? Everything's going to be okay. We're America. I mean, we're not, the Russians do this, and the Chinese do that, and the North Koreans do this, but we're America. I mean, we're ordained by God. We're blessed by providence and guidance. And it's going to be real hard for us to screw it up. Well, that's kind of where we are culturally. Now, I don't think politically we've got there, but that's where we're headed. I mean, there will be a law. There will be a Supreme Court rendering a decision in the next 10 years of whether or not Dave Baker has to identify someone as their gender of choice.
You think that's coming?
Oh, yeah. There's no doubt in my mind because, once again, Rev, culture has decided that anything goes and everything's going to be okay. Anything goes means transgenderism is normalized. Gender dysphoria is not a mental illness. Gender neutrality is to be accepted. Sex change operations are to be normalized. I mean, that's the anything goes culture. So if our politics runs downstream of culture, if I'm right, could be wrong, but if I'm right, then why wouldn't the body politic begin addressing the political issues based on what the culture of the country is? Let's go to debt. Everything's going to be okay. Why? Well, these Keynesian economists say it is. These modern monetary theorists say it is. The contrasting voice, the contrarian is going to find himself lonelier and lonelier and lonelier and poorer and poorer and poorer and less connected and less connected and less connected. The ones that can afford to will probably move to Wyoming. I mean, they probably will. Remember the article we read in one of the, it's kind of a left-leaning magazine, that the only thing more prevalent in the sky around Jackson Hole than eagles and osprey are Lears and Gulf Streams? I mean, a lot of the wealthy people see this anything goes, everything's going to be okay culture, and they know, they're smart enough to know that eventually our politics are going to reflect that sort of prejudgment. And what are they doing? They're buying big ranches in Montana and Wyoming. Why? To get away. I mean, they're cutting a deal with the federal government to put them in conservation easements so they get the tax advantage of that. They'll park their Gulfstream And I'm talking about wealthy people who aren't morons. These are plenty smart. They're doing what I wish I could do. Now, Mike gave me the ultimate compliment. We need you in the fight. I mean, and when Mike said that last week, that inspires me. My wife says, you ain't moving to Wyoming. You couldn't run from this fight because it's too important and too critical. And I've got kids and hope to have grandkids one day. But the anything goes, everything is going to be okay culture is going to become our political ideology. I mean, it's inevitable. It's going to happen. 80% of young people are voting Democrats. Democrats are telling young people anything goes and everything's going to be okay. Now, I don't buy into that. I don't think anything goes, and I damn sure don't think everything's going to be okay, but they're going to isolate me, and they're going to make me more of an outcast, more of a kind of a marginalized voice, and one day, I mean, I don't know what happens when it blows up. I mean, am I going to take any solace in saying I told you so? I mean, I hope not, because I'm going to hurt like everybody else is going to hurt. I'm going to be financially disadvantaged like everybody else is going to be financially disadvantaged. This is when I freak you out, because I can look in your face and see, that I'm freaking you out. And once again, some people need a 2-hour meeting to land here. I get here in 10 minutes. And I'm convinced that the anything goes culture and the everything's going to be okay culture is going to eventually be our political identity. And when that happens, that the contrarians will be outcast. I mean, it will be as if we had leprosy. These radical radio show hosts who kind of that they advocate these conspiracy theories. And you know what? You know what's going to be the relevant conspiracy theory moving forward? That everything is not okay, and anything cannot go. I mean, we're going to be once again the counterculturalist. And are we willing to dance naked on a Volkswagen at Woodstock in the mud? I mean, I don't know. The counterculturalists of the 60s were, and they got their way. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. What is normal today, Rev? Who do we celebrate today, Rev? Do we celebrate pastors? Do we celebrate morality leaders? Or do we celebrate sex, drugs, and rock and roll? You're guilty of it. I'm guilty of it. And I think that was the beginning of this anything goes and everything is going to be okay cultural element that eventually defines who we are politically. I want to thank our sponsors. Carolina Bank serves communities throughout northeastern South Carolina, offering a wide range of services to meet every personal or business need, from straightforward accounts to complex finances. They're prepared to help you reach your financial goals. Carolina Bank, banking on tradition since 1936. Member FDIC. Schofield's Ace Hardware, your one-stop shop for all hardware, paint and lawn and garden needs, plus all things sporting goods, including firearms, safes, clothing, footwear, and more. Pepsi of Florence represent the entire product line of PepsiCo, one of the world's leading food and beverage companies. Pepsi of Florence also serve brands from other great companies such as Dr. Pepper, Canada Dry, Lipton Tea, Gatorade, and various regional brands. Micky Finn's largest South Carolina liquor wholesaler, serving every county in the state, largest bourbon selection statewide. They ship wines to 43 states, opening soon a new beverage warehouse across from Buc-ee's on I-95 in Florence. They support USC athletics, including Williams-Brice and Colonial Life Arena. Marlboro PD Electric Co-op. If you're in big business and looking for an industrial park in the South to build your new plant, consider Marlboro PD Electric Co-op's new PD Commerce Center, an industrial park located at the I-95 exit in Florence, South Carolina. Check it out at MPDC Co-op or PDEC.com.